Hello, we've made a little video to help students and parents find their way around Show My Homework and to help you understand a little bit about how the different tasks work, particularly in light of changes due to COVID-19. Show My Homework have been continually developing and updating their site to try and respond to the changing needs of teachers, students and their parents. So I'm just going to have a little look around the site with you. I'll just explain this is a training site, so it's not going to look quite like your child's. And the first thing we can see is the to-do list. And you'll see that this child on the to-do list appears to have done their homework. Well, they haven't because they don't exist. But down here, you'll see that the very first task that appears is the one that needs doing first. So because this student hasn't been doing any work, it looks like it's right back in September, but for your child it will be the homework which is probably due that week, that day. Okay, so that's particularly useful. It helps organise the work in the right order. The calendar, then you can move up and down the calendar. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom because I put together here some sample tasks to show you what they look like and how they work. So if I start with the first type, it's called assignment. And the idea of an assignment is that you would be due to hand an assignment in, so that something is going to be submitted online. So we're in the description screen at the moment. If I scroll down, there's a short description on what to do, very short because I've just put this in as an example. And underneath, you may have some extra resources that the teacher's added to help. It could be they've uploaded files, maybe a document or a PowerPoint. It could be that they've taken you to a web link. And increasingly, you'll see that people are posting little online video lessons so that students can have a little bit of that teaching experience. Now, because we've got to hand something in, there's also a submit button here. We click on submit. And as you scroll down, you see you can either type something in. It might be that the teacher's asked you to type something up and hand it in, or it might be that you're attaching a file. So this could be that you've done a PowerPoint or the student's made a document and want to attach it. You can save as a draft and then come back and change it, or you can submit it to the teacher and it will appear in their inbox. And this is particularly useful because if you were going off to college or university, the packages that they use would look very, very similar. So it's great practice for when they leave school. If I go back to the calendar and down the bottom, I'll look at these other sample tasks. So one of them here is a class test. And we're not really using these anymore because obviously we can't set class tests. We don't have our classes in at the moment. But the idea is that because it comes up in purple, the students would know that it signifies a test or a large assignment. And so again, teacher might add some resources to help them with their revision, and the due date is shown here. But you'll see that there is no requirement to submit work. And that's because the inference is that the students will be doing a test in the lesson and therefore not submitting work because they'll have revised to do the test. We go down the bottom again. We'll see that we have something called a flexible task, and that comes up in pink. And again, you've got a start and finish date, and the teacher here has added some resources to help. Now, flexible tasks have sort of two main functions. Originally, one of their thought processes was that it would help something called flipped learning. And flipped learning is where students are asked to do something in advance of the lesson so that when they come to the lesson, they are prepared to move on. So it might be they've been asked to read a website and arrive with some questions that they didn't understand, or they may be asked to have some points ready to discuss, or they may have been asked to learn an equation or some key dates, whatever it is. So that was one of the ideas originally, but it very quickly got turned into something that we could use at the beginning of the crisis to set work without requiring a submission. And that was particularly useful because we put a lot of work up, not knowing when we'd be able to get back in or remote in, and it meant that students were getting a lot of homework very quickly. And the concern was that they'd end up with grade books full of work that hadn't been handed in, and we didn't want to have that happen. So this has sort of evolved a little bit, but hopefully in the future it'll be used for flip learning. Going back to the calendar and looking at our sample tasks down the bottom then. The other ones we've got then, so we've looked at the assignment where we hand things in, we looked at a test where we don't, and the flexible task where we don't. The other two which we use a lot are the spelling test and the quiz, and I'll just show you what they look like. There's nothing handed in here because the work is done online and it goes automatically to the mark book. So very simply here, we've got to complete the test and they start the spelling test.
Tudor.
You hear the word and then you put the word in and hopefully you spell it right and you submit. Okay, continue.
Theory.
Let's imagine I didn't know how to spell theory, so I put in something else and I submit. No, so I've lost a life now. It's given me a chance to do it again. I can listen again if I'm not sure. Okay, and then I can type the word in and hopefully I'll get it right this time. I do. Student can see the results, and these are the same results that the teacher will see, and you can see down here I got one right first time, the other one it took me 2 attempts. Okay, and again, whenever you're submitting work you can enter a comment and you can attach files as well, and the teacher can then reply in the same way. So going back to the calendar and down to my sample tasks at the bottom here. The other thing I mentioned here was a quiz. It's very simple to, similar to the spelling test, although obviously here we're asking multiple choice questions, and it may seem a little limited with multiple choice, but there are a lot of things you can do, a lot of ways of asking questions using multiple choice that can be very useful. I use it a lot for testing exam skills. So if I start the quiz, it says here there's a time limit. Now the teacher sets that. In this particular one I'm only giving them 60 seconds to answer each question. They have 3 opportunities to take the quiz to improve the score, and teachers like using this if they want to use it to help students either spot mistakes or embed key information, because it's a very quick turnaround and they can see where they've gone wrong. So I've done a very short, exceptionally simple quiz. I'm hoping we all know that Elizabeth would have ruled England. Continue, and I can see the results. I got 100%, aren't I? Great. I could retake the quiz, or I can just look at the results, and here you'll see on my first attempt I got everything right. But a teacher would see all the attempts in here, and they could see therefore if the students progressed at each attempt. Okay, back to my calendar. So if we look down here, then there are 5 types of tasks that teachers set. The assignment is where the student can upload work. We've got the class test, which we're not obviously using at the moment, where no work is uploaded, but it's supposed to help a child revise and plan for their test date. The flexible task, which originally was there to allow students to prepare in advance of a lesson, but at the moment we're tending to use where we just want students to be doing some work but not necessarily handing something in. That could be reading, looking at websites and so on. We've also got the spelling test and the quiz, where we don't hand work in because that work appears directly in the mark book. There is a new type of task which Show My Homework are developing at the moment, be out very soon, which is a classwork task where we can set lessons online. So it's going to move towards a much more blended learning way of using Show My Homework. Obviously up to now they've just been about homework tasks. So this is the next development, obviously, as we seek to support our families and our students in the sort of coming weeks and possibly months. We don't know at the moment. So that will be coming out as well. And if there are any questions about that, I can hopefully answer those in the future. Now, the other thing which is quite useful on here is the grade book. So as you can see, this student has done no work and has no marks, but what you would normally see in here is you would see the grade, whether the homework has been done, and any results. Okay, so that's particularly useful for the student to keep track of how they're doing. And again, very similarly, teachers will have a mark book which will also show all of these results in. Okay, we do have a notice board in here. We don't tend to use that. We have EduLink, and you'll also see that these other bits are down here. Now you can click on support and that will take you through to help. Okay, you've got a little video here and a help centre, and in fact if I click on here, this is showing the main website for the help centre. You can either access it through Show My Homework, or you can find it online. If you put Satchel Help into Google, it will come up with this website. It's really useful because it shows you pretty much anything you might want to know, and it's divided into users. So if you're a student and you can't remember how to change your password, you'll go in here and you'll see, oh, changing my password, how to do it. Okay, It's also quite useful if you just want to find out a little bit about how Show My Homework works. One of the things I quite like is that every time you click onto any one of these, it will bring up a little tutorial and show you how to do it. And right down the bottom, you'll also see you've got something here called Contact Support. That's really useful because you can then email Show My Homework and they will get back to you. Now, before COVID, there were probably an hour or two. It's not really been much more than 3 or 4 hours, I found, even since. They are really trying to make sure that people aren't left in the lurch if they're struggling with the website. Do use it. We do pay for that support as part of our package, and they are very good. And again, there's exactly the same thing available for parents as well. So again, parents can have a look in here and get some help. Okay, how to log on if there's a problem with emails. So really, they've built this. This is the people who run it. They built it from frequently asked questions, so it's really useful. And finally, if you go onto the school website, onto the main information page and scroll down to the bottom, you'll also see information that's up there which covers the real basics about how to deal with Show My Homework. And there's a little bit of information at the bottom really talking about what I've shown here, which is what the different tasks are for and how to access the Help Centre. So I hope you find that useful. Obviously, as usual, do get in touch with us if you have any other questions.